There we go. This is live streaming. Uh-oh. I don't like this. It sounds like there's a serious fire in Ansonia. I might have to hop off.
Uh-oh.
But up until that point, hey, everybody. Welcome to Insufferable Bastards, a special live stream. My name is Carlos Danger for the purposes of this broadcast, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Brian Spears. How the hell are you, Brian?
Hello, hello.
So hopefully everything is going okay and we're set up. I can fade the music out, and you can see making a return appearance to Insufferable Bastards. I just think it was a week ago we talked about Halloween Ends. Seems like a long time ago, but I guess it was just about a week ago.
Just a week ago.
Yeah, welcome back from Mondo Creepy, Matt Maisto.
Greetings and salutations, guys.
Yeah, so I hope to stick to like an agenda tonight. I know no one likes a crappy YouTube broadcaster when they just skip around and talk for hours about nothing, so I'm going to try my best not to do that tonight. I thought we would talk about and play some audio. The big controversy in the world of horror this week was Jamie Lee Curtis being unkind to Danielle Harris and some other actresses, but I only count Danielle Harris. That's just me. Then I thought,
What was the other Laurie Strode?
Yeah, all right. Do you know her name?
Other Laurie Strode.
Exactly. So Danielle Harris.
All right.
So anyway, I'm shutting off the music. And then I thought we would talk about like whether you guys have had any evil celebrity encounters. All right, it's a TMZ episode. All right, what do you want from me? And then I thought we would talk about stand-up comedian, the man who's fighting the world, Chad Zumock, formerly of Misery Loves Company podcast, headed by Mr. Kevin Brennan, who I think pound for pound is the greatest stand-up comic in the world right now, or at least podcaster that I see, Mr. Kevin Brennan, Misery Loves Company.
He's everywhere at the moment.
So I know I'm going to try to share this now. Maybe you and Brian can talk amongst yourselves for a second there, if you just bear with me, and then get right into the Jamie Lee Curtis stuff. But Matt, I know, tell people what Mondo Creepy is, and I know that you just had a big development in the Mondo Creepy world about a week ago or so.
Yeah, about a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. Mondo Creepy is a horror host show, meaning that you see somebody introduces, and every time you go to break, they'll comment on what you just saw, tease something that's going on. A horror host, so we show a horror movie like Elvira. In fact, probably the best way to think about the show is kind of Elvira meets USA Up All Night, kind of mashed together. And recently, we just got on
Roku, baby. You got a
Roku
thing.
channel called OSI 74. It's owned and operated by another horror host named Mr. Lobo, who used to be on TV syndicated out of Northern California.
I think I heard a dog.
Starting about like 2000 to like 2010, I think. And now he's got this channel called OSI 74, and it's just a collection of really interesting, independent kind of produced television shows, not necessarily horror host shows. There's all types of shows. There's one called Pacific North Weird, which is kind of like Weird New Jersey, but like based out of like the Pacific Northwest. All types
Mr.
of
Lobo,
stuff.
is he like the top dog of that world? Is he like the big guy of?
No, the big guy is Svengoolie.
Okay.
Svengoolie is
like I know nothing about this world. I know nothing about pretty much the topics
it's
we're
a
going to
whole
talk
world.
about.
It's a whole weird world.
But is he still relevant today? Like he's still live today?
He's He's in fact that channel he's on Me TV. I think he's probably like the biggest star on Me TV. He gets huge ratings, and pretty much outside of Joe Bob, he's the only like real horror, like the only horror host on like real television, like syndicated nationwide.
Zacherle's dead, right?
He's
still
the guy.
Dead. Zacherle's still dead. Is that right?
Zacherle is still very dead.
And does he
Sorry to hear
play like what kind of movies or what?
He plays classic horror movies from
Okay.
like the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Usually like decent stuff. He's not showing like what most horror hosts have to do, which is show public domain stuff.
Okay.
Like he's showing like, the proper Universal classics and things like that.
All right.
Good for him. So that's cool, and congratulations on that. And I guess before we get into it, I do have some thank yous. You know, it's been a big week for this crappy little podcast. I'm literally in my basement. We're like, this is the basement dweller version of this podcast. But we got mentioned recently. This crappy little show, got mentioned by Steel Toe, which is a morning and evening YouTube show out there in Minnesota, I believe. They mentioned us. Steel Toe Morning Radio. That was pretty cool. And then a little podcast called Who Are These Podcasts? Mentioned us. And not in the way, the second time. This time they didn't call us shitheads. They didn't say we're a bunch of jerks. They didn't call us morons. It was pretty cool. And it's all because all I did was clip some Chad Zumock stuff. Like, they didn't even have to credit me. You know what I mean? I was surprised they even did, because it's not like I created this stuff. I just hit record and shared it. But with some commentary. So, and also, after thanking them, I should also apologize to all the people who came over after hearing about us based on those sort of indirect endorsements, I guess. I want to apologize because, this is just a crappy movie review podcast. Sorry. So let's talk about Jamie Lee Curtis. Oh, wait. And also Super Retro Throwback Reviews. Bigger than all of them, I was a guest this week on Super Retro Throwback Reviews to talk about the Halloween franchise, which was pretty exciting. First thing I did, of course, when I got on, I was like 40 minutes late because I had some family stuff to do. But he immediately started asking me about Brian, Mr. Spears, who, can you talk at all about you just worked on, or you're working, or what are you doing?
I'm on the I mean, it's been announced. I've been doing makeup effects for American Horror Story. So we're on the last stretch. We're close to crossing the finish line is basically all I can say about.
Now, here's where I'm
right
confused though, because it's airing now, right? Or this all one season? Like, that you're working on the show as they're.
Yeah, this is.
Oh man, that's some movie
this is
magic.
crazy, and I can't talk about it, but I just finished a indie feature, which will hopefully Deadline will be announcing something about it soon. So needless to say, it's been a rough couple months.
That is neat. You need to say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Needful to say.
Yeah. I know that's not uncommon for FX shows to shoot like that either.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, really?
This is
YouTube.
This is dangerously close to like, wow, we literally did a scene that was in an episode yesterday. We did that a couple weeks ago.
I had a friend who was a makeup artist on The American. She told me stories like that all the time.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised.
It's been.
I know one makeup. Oh, this guy Spears.
It's been nuts, but it's been kind of cool. I mean, I guess it's a pretty big show. A lot of people have been getting some like messages from American Horror Story fans on Instagram, which is kind of weird. I mean, I'm not getting. I mean,
good or bad, or like, well, the messages like we get on YouTube. Are they calling you a fat man, baby?
Did you work on this show? I mean, I'm not getting any nudes, which I mean, I was certainly.
Well, all right.
But,
hey, we can't edit that.
We're gonna talk about all this talk radio stuff.
Jamie Lee motherfucking Curtis.
No, we're gonna be sensible. Yeah, we're gonna try to keep our jobs. Yeah. So that was all that. Let's get right into it now that we have not gotten right into it, but that's what you say.
Or were you
podcast,
treated
right?
like Danielle Harris, which is a good segue into the next.
Boom. And Matt, you can keep an eye on if anybody tells us we're a fat man, baby, right now. There might be one or two, because I actually did share it this time.
Now I see I'm the only person in the chat.
Don't say that out loud, asshole. All right. So the big news in the horror world this week was, what's her name?
Jamie Lee motherfucking Curtis.
That's right. I said
Jamie Lee motherfucking Curtis
had an encounter with Danielle Harris and the other actress from one of the Rob Zombie Halloweens, or the two Rob Zombie Halloweens, and it didn't go the way Danielle had hoped it would go. And so let's just share the love here. Oh, wait, actually, screw that. Let's start off with the Stuttering John video. Let's start off with a little laugh. This is from Dabblers Anonymous, as you can see. I don't know who actually made the video, though. I apologize. I don't know how to. I'm a moron.
Yeah,
but it's funny.
Yeah, baby. Oh, where is my green screen? How dare me? There. How are we, everybody? Welcome to the world famous Stuttering John podcast. There we go. There's my LA ground. Not to be confused with the Big Apple, of course. There's the link to donate. PayPal.me/John Melendez.
All right, there we go. The sound of the chorus cans. I thought that was hilarious when I watched it. Apparently, you guys didn't. All right,
Well,
let me
I
know
thought
if you
that was
can-
like the sound of his green screen falling down.
No, that was. Come on, I guess what you guys don't drink enough. That was the sound of everywhere he goes. He's got 16,000 Coors cans, empties falling all over the place, like Burt Reynolds at the start of Smokey and the Bandit. Remember, he wakes up and he
Yes.
drops all his Budweiser cans. All right, so here's Danielle Harris and Scout Taylor Compton talking about meeting Jamie Lee Curtis at the world premiere of Halloween Ends recently.
Go up to her fucking
I was like,
Ruby
look,
Rose
she
is
doesn't
going
have
up to her.
shoes on. Like, she's so badass. Let's go. Like, that
Let's
now
do
is
it.
the time. So
And then their
we walked
lines
up
were,
to
but
her.
lines were forming.
Yeah, but it wasn't like that bad. There was nobody there.
Right. It was just her.
And like her two kids.
Yeah, like kind of, but like doing their own thing. And then there people were kind of around her, like waiting to say hi because she was kind of doing stuff.
Oh, wait, should we? Then people are going to get really pissed. Should we have a disclaimer? Brian, you worked with Danielle Harris, right?
Oh yeah, I have. Yes, a couple times.
And she
Stakeland
is.
and all. Yeah, and a whole other movie. I forget the name of it right now.
She's cool.
Yeah, she was always nice, always cool. I've never had an issue. And then we met her at one of those Connecticut horror fests. And
Well,
She
no,
was-
we saw her in Jersey. We did see her in Connecticut, but I remember in Jersey,
but she talked
He-
to us in Connecticut.
talked to you. Was it in Connecticut? I don't remember.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember walking across in Jersey, and she stopped and was really nice. Like remembered you and all that.
Yeah.
Even though you might have been a little inebriated,
I mean, yes.
probably
that's-
smelly. All right, I'll shut up. We got to learn to shut up. Sorry.
And then her photographer was there, and her photographer's super cool.
So cool.
He
knew who we were.
Yes.
He was like, oh my God, the horror icon.
Yeah, he was really, really nice. And he was the only one that I think had really been given permission to be inside and take photos inside. So,
Can you
now
stop
is
for
our
1
moment.
second?
Now is our
That
moment.
was our moment. We were so
Yeah, they're gonna kill us in the chat though.
I'm sorry, but
I mean,
oh my God,
eventually,
the
if anybody.
horror icons.
Yeah, come on, man. We can't talk over that.
We can't talk.
We've gotten crucified for stopping and starting audio stuff. But I will say, or videos. I will
I just
say,
want it noted that she said that.
this is okay. It's Danielle Harris. I got nothing against her. You know what I mean. But this is really probably one of the most self-involved episodes of like podcasting.
For the
It's
record,
really
I did not hate her first Halloween movie.
she's a good actress and she's great in State.
Hey man, I love the Rob Zombie ones. I love them in their movie together. Their two movies together.
So in this whole episode of this podcast, they start off by saying like we had this negative experience happen. We actually recorded. This is our second attempt to record this podcast because I guess they got too emotional. I guess they're worrying about how this podcast will impact their careers going forward. Right. So they're like, because that's what this town is like the ultimate. They cancel you for anything. And so they talk about, though, it's like, well, we didn't like our Uber driver because he smelled like cigarettes. And then they were pushing us off the red carpet too fast because Jamie Lee Curtis was arriving. So basically the whole thing is they're treated like fans.
Okay. See, I didn't hear the buildup. I just heard like that. I saw that article and I linked it to you that time.
Yeah. So this is what happened. So essentially my opinion is they're mad because they were treated like normal people.
Yes.
excited. We were so nervous, but we were so excited.
So
and
we
we went with the other
Yes.
girls.
I was like, if we all
They
go
came with
together,
us,
like
yeah.
we'll all go together. Heather, Amanda, Scout, and I, let's go together.
And sorry, they're talking about they see Jamie Lee Curtis at this after party. They've already watched the movie. I should also note, and I apologize again for interrupting, they've spent, at this point in the podcast, they have trashed Halloween Ends. I think that's the best part of the whole podcast. They make all the same points that we made. They didn't like the movie.
And then this is at the after party, I believe. All this happens
this
at
is-
an after
yeah.
party.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Like we'll all just do it. So power in numbers.
And
right?
she's talking about Heather Logenkamp or whatever her name is from Nightmare on Elm Street,
Yes.
some other lady, and these two.
Right? So we're like, this is great. We can just knock it out. So we walked up and one of the producers is there and who we knew, and I was like, hey, oh good, you're standing here with your his wife and his kid.
Probably Ryan Turek,
I
right?
was like, great, maybe if we get introduced through one of the people that she already knows, it won't be so awkward and weird for us. If that producer could be like, hey, do you know Danielle Harris, Scout Compton? You know what I mean? Like, whatever. And I was like, hey, you got to introduce us. You got to introduce us, please, please, please. Fucking introduce us. And he was like, and I was like, oh, he's got his wife and his daughter. Maybe it's just like too much. Like, here's 6 people that you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So he took his picture. She was very welcoming and lovely with them and took photos and left. And
because he's a producer.
Now is our chance. But her back was to us. And I was like, oh, shit. Okay.
I mean, she gave off this vibe like she totally didn't want to talk to anybody, but we proceeded nonetheless.
So I went up to the photographer and I said, hey, would you get a picture of
Jamie Lee motherfucking Curtis?
All of us? And that's when he was like, yeah, that would be epic. I was like, cool. So
she's already planning on ambushing Jamie Harris.
She's doing standing behind her in a selfie.
Right. I love, like, this is what we've done countless times.
Yeah,
drunk at horror conventions in 1993.
I'm not knocking them, but it is exactly. I mean, I've done this.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Is that this is horror convention type of story,
and like, yeah, she's
not a red carpet story.
Jamie Lee Curtis that night is a living legend. You know what I mean? Like, whatever, however you feel about the movies or anything, but like, she definitely was,
and she's had a massive A-list career.
Jamie Lee motherfucking Curtis.
This is where it started.
Yeah.
And now, this is essentially the end right? I mean, pretty much.
And they're being very polite. Like, I mean, I kind of crashed a Linda Blair once at a convention, and I was definitely had a couple pops in me, and it was definitely but I kept it going. Like, I didn't slow down.
Today,
these guys are overthinking it. I was drunk.
I was there. I was at that convention, but I wasn't with Brian. I was covering it for a local newspaper, right? I'd go down and come back with the story. And I was like on another floor of it was like lobbies stacked on top of each other, right? So it was like you could look up and they had vendors and all stars signing autographs. And I could hear Brian screaming at Linda Blair from like 2 floors below.
But it was very nice.
It wasn't mean. And then I was like, okay, now's my chance. And I went up and she took out her hand and she said,
wait, hold on. I'm going to back it up. And then I'm going to shut up. I apologize.
I was like, cool. So I think he had said something to her about like, we're going to do this as she had turned. And then I was like, okay, now's my chance. And I went up and
well, wait a second. We should probably point out now that we're like 45 minutes into this idiotic live stream, Danielle Harris was in Halloween, 5, 6, and the Rob Zombies. I don't know if
was it 4 or 5.
She was in 4 and 5.
She's been in 4. She's been in 4 of them, right?
Yes.
So that was the connection here.
And she took out her hand and she said, she just said Jamie Lee Curtis, and she shook my hand and I said, hi, I'm Danielle Harris. So I played, and she was just like, but like, what's going on? Spit it out. And I said, I played your daughter, Jamie, Laurie Strode's daughter, Jamie, in the older Halloween franchise. And she goes, I don't remember exactly how it came out, but it was, I've never seen those movies. I don't watch those movies. And I was just, there was a moment where I thought,
she remembers exactly
how
it came out.
This about her, but I'm waiting for her
Jamie Lee motherfucking Curtis.
But I know, honey, I know you. I haven't seen them, but I know you. Or, oh my God, I haven't seen them, but that's awesome. Or something, And she just said, I don't watch those movies. I've never seen those movies. I don't watch them. I don't know who you are. And I was just like, oh, okay. And that was really like, I was just sort of like a deer in headlights. I just didn't know how to continue the conversation, because when you're sort of like cut off, how do you then say, well, can I continue to tell you how awesome I think you are? It was just sort of like, I don't, okay, next, I'm sorry, I don't know you. It was like,
yeah, and I didn't know what
you weren't here. You couldn't hear me.
I didn't know. I was kind of waiting for my after
waiting your turn. Yeah,
and
I walked away and went over to the photographer dude. Like,
and the other woman is Scott Taylor Compton, who starred in Zombies Halloween 1 and 2.
Yeah,
I was just like, I don't know.
Well, and then that's when the photographer got us all together.
Yeah,
he like immediately after your encounter, he got us all together. And
the photographer that you asked to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's clearly the photographer is the event photographer, and he sees this is a train wreck. He's like, "All right, everybody, all right, let's go!" Like, get them together and take the
Can
picture.
you put that
get them
picture
out of
back
there.
up?
Yeah.
I don't know. The only thing, I'll put it up in a second. I'm just worried that when I switch over to it, I don't know if that cuts the audio out. I don't know, Matt. Is anybody telling you? Anybody? What about all our fans say in the chat?
What's going on? What are we doing
yeah,
to him?
That's what they're
which
saying.
I didn't know what had happened, so I was like, oh yeah, she's busy, she's got
Let's
she's
just
got
hurry
so
with the
much to do.
pictures.
I get it. She's like taking so much photos with everybody. I was like, okay, I'll just talk to her after this photo, like really fast,
Yeah.
just like tell her how much I love her and like thank you and like I played you and like it's such an honor to like be able to play Laurie Strode with you and whatever. So when we took that photo,
I was so far away.
you were so far away that the photographer was like, Danielle, scoot
in.
because you were so far.
I
and
was
now
just
I
frozen.
understand.
I was
now I understand why you were so far.
I was frozen. I didn't know what had happened, and I just like got stuck in time. Like it just was not. I mean, I was just sad and I didn't know what had happened. And I just kept feeling like she's going to say, I'm just kidding at any point.
They're talking about it like it was the Challenger explosion in 1986.
I think they're reading into this too much.
Standing there. And we took the picture and then I just walked away fast. It was like
you were
embarrassed.
Gone.
I was out.
You were gone.
And then I turned around and I saw you standing there waiting to talk to her. She was talking.
Okay, this is my favorite part. After that disaster with Danielle Harris and look at I love the
look at her eyes.
Yeah, look at the mouth. Look at how tight. Like she's faking the smile. She's grinning through the smile.
And the other girl is Amanda something. She was in Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one. She's the girl that flies up from the bed.
She was also
she's
the
the
first
first kid.
Better Off Dead.
Yes.
Oh. Did you think she told Jamie Lee Curtis that? Hey, I was in Better Off Dead.
But here's the thing. Like, Jamie Lee Curtis hasn't probably seen any Halloween movie.
No.
Why would
I
you?
think she's
They're awful.
openly admitted like that kind of stuff. She's not a fan of
not
that
only
genre.
that, at this point of the evening, how many people do you think Jamie
that's
Lee
what I was
Curtis
just-
already had to meet?
Yes.
For like just obligated to meet at this point at this event.
Like she pushed this movie so much. I've never seen anyone market a movie like this. Is like she was out everywhere on every talk show.
She's a noted kook, right? I mean, it's not like her parents were Tony Curtis and the woman from Psycho, right? So come on, she was born crazy.
I mean, she probably had a huge payday, and part of the deal was, hey, you got to promote the hell out of it because she's only in the movie for 15 minutes.
Just
what I mean?
like
It's
she
not
was in the last one. At least she
Yeah.
was in it this one a little bit more than she
Yeah.
was in the previous one.
All right, so now at this point, and it's almost done. Scout Taylor Compton, I have to read that. She's talking about her encounter. Now she is up next with
Jamie Lee motherfucking Curtis?
into somebody else. And you were waiting, and I was like, is she going to tap her on the shoulder? Oh, God.
Danielle Harris.
What is
going,
happening?
Save me.
I did. I was like, Scout.
Oh, I didn't. Well,
You can't hear
wanted
me.
To
I know.
I needed to talk. I was like, I need to like say how much you mean to me.
I know.
And I'm not going to tell my story because I'm already getting emotional. And this is what I was like trying not to do because like in the last episode I cried. And oh my God, fuck. I'm such a crybaby. But yeah, it was equally as like
Yeah, it's disappointing. And
yeah,
it was just disappointing.
it was like the same encounter, but me just saying that I played Laurie Strode. So unfortunately,
I mean, listen, come on. I don't want to pick. I mean, again, Danielle Harris was super cool. I like the movies. I admire this.
I understand the disappointment. I do.
That's what I'm saying.
I do understand
You
the
met your hero and
disappointment.
it didn't live up to what you wanted it. That's
I
all.
just what did Jamie Lee Curtis say to the second one? Was she like, I know you less?
Like that's the only thing. It's
Jamie
like,
Lee motherfucking Curtis?
and again,
Oh.
I guarantee you, Jamie Lee Curtis didn't know her two kids that were there that night. You know what I mean? It was probably a whirlwind of everything going on.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So I thought that was, hey, I mean, come on. Everyone's experienced that, right? Hasn't everybody's experienced that? You meet, right? Everyone has a celebrity encounter where it kind of sucks, right? I know, like I'll share. I only have I got the one that really hit me was when I was a little kid. I saw wrestling at the Westchester County Center in White Plains, New York. And my
Who was
father
on
had
who was on the card that night?
my father. Well, I'm telling the story. My father had. We waited outside for the wrestlers. We knew what entrance they'd come in. You could get their autographs. Tito Santana pulls up in a Peugeot, and he's got like an open collar dress shirt on with like really nice like whatever Ralph Lauren slacks, and his shirt's open like down to here. He's carrying his Intercontinental belt at the time.
Awesome.
And he walks past me, and I'm like, I'm a little kid, right? I was probably at most 10 years old. I don't know. Somebody Google when he was Intercontinental.
That's about right.
Yeah. So Tito Santana, nope, just walks right. He goes, no, 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 and he just walks right by me. And I was like, I couldn't believe Tito. Next guy, Iron Mike Sharp, right? Remember him? He put the thing on. He's the bad guy. I'm just looking at him. I'm like, oh, he's not. Stops, gives me my autograph. Dude was awesome. Tito Santana, I'll never forgive you. But I saw him, I guess 25, 30 years later. He was at Monster Mania.
I don't know
90.
if he still has it.
But my autograph. I was on WATP, or at least mentioned.
For years, Tito Santana actually had a barbershop in Woodbridge, New Jersey. I don't know if he still has it. But if you wanted to see Tito Santana every day.
Is that Tito Santana? I thought that was Pedro Morales.
No, Tito Santana's like the Intercontinental guy who's at Ariba. That's the
I
guy
have
you
no
saw.
idea. The other guy, and this is more recent, I went, you guys might have met me there one of the days. I went down to the first New Jersey horror film festival, I think it was.
The one that now moved to Atlantic City, but
Right.
this was in like a different spot in Jersey.
It was in northern or central Jersey, depending on how you weirdos from Jersey define it. But Matthew Lillard, guy from Scream and Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, they had him just, and when you go to those horror conventions, like the big name celebrities, you can't even get near them anymore. They have them sequestered, got to wait online for 16 hours. But this was a brand new convention. I don't think they knew what they were doing. Excuse me, I'm gassy. So they had Lillard just sitting out like in the vendor stuff. It was like you could buy, a copy of like a 1975 Playboy or an Ilsa movie. And then like literally the next table was Matthew Lillard. I waited. I went around a couple of times. And it was for this podcast. So actually, this was.
I mean, within 5 years.
Say this was from 2016 at some point. So I walk up to him and I have my phone and I'm like, hey, I do a podcast. Can I ask you a question or two? There's like nobody around. Nobody was asking for his autograph.
Yeah, what do you say?
And he starts going on like, he really wasn't into it. I don't really remember what he said. So I was like, okay, yeah, no problem. I started to walk away, and as I'm turning away, he starts to ask me like, well, what are podcasts? Isn't that just, quick hits and all this sound bites? He called it, aren't podcasts just sound bites? And like, just, you already said no. Now you're insulting the fact that you're insulting the whole medium of podcast. And then he didn't know what it was. So I was like, no, actually it's the opposite of that. There's in-depth kind of like, you never heard of like Mark Maron's podcast. You never heard of any of this? And it got a little like weird. But
I met him that night too, and he was
he's kind of a
not
dick.
friendly, but now also I think I read it in one of.
He's been on a million podcasts, and he has his own podcast.
And it's not a verified source, but I believe he's one of the people, because they said the Scream people were pulling out of the last Monster Mania if they didn't get rid of Gary Busey, and they said he made the phone call to the upper management to Monster Mania and said you have to get rid of Gary Busey, because he had some incidents that happened at that last Monster Mania.
Last Monster Mania, I think they pressed charges on him now.
But it was.
I'll tell you something. I heard after off mic because I'll get sued.
A bunch of the stuff all over Facebook is because Matthew Lillard and the Scream panel said they wouldn't stay any longer if they kept Gary Busey there.
Yeah, fuck that guy. All right, John Russo was another jerk. I was doing like back in the day, even before the internet. I was for a newspaper, covered one of the horror conventions in New York City, I think it was. John Russo, who's a co-writer, right, or wrote the Night of the Living Dead with George Romero back in the day. Again, no one at his table, wouldn't say, oh, you got to go like call somebody, you got to, and like, his daughter was like his publicist, and I was like, really, dude? I just want to ask you, like,
if you just would have bought dirt from the cemetery, he would have talked your ear off.
Yeah, so that was my 3 bad celebrity experiences. I mean, Brian, you work with celebrities, so you probably have like some horror stories that you can't tell us. But there any like weird stuff that jumps out? Just it doesn't have to be work related. But
I mean, I did work with one actor. It was a movie, Bitter Feast. Joshua Leonard. It's not like he gets progressively beat up in the movie, and I'm not saying he was difficult. He didn't like the process. and it was
He's from the
really
Blair
tough.
Witch. He's best known. He was one of the
Yes, from
stars of
Blair
the Blair
Witch,
Witch
yeah.
project.
And it was trying. I mean, it was a very short shoot. It was a very demanding shoot. It was a lot, like, we didn't have a lot of money. It wasn't a luxurious. It was a very small movie, and he could be a little bit of a pain, especially, again, he didn't like the process, and he was a guy that was getting beat up the whole movie. So each look, every day, it got worse. I will say at the end, and at the end of the movie, I can't tell my Tony Todd story. But it got, like, at the end of the movie, he did say, "Hey, thanks." All that stuff helped me get into it. And he's been, after, when I've seen him since, he's always been much cooler. But it really was like, oh, this is really tough. This is really tough. Like, and I do have actors that sit in chairs that are, there was a woman, I did a movie years ago. Was
Bette
one of my
Midler.
first? No, it was one like Tova something. She's a big New York.
Tova
theater.
Felcher. I worked
Yes.
with her on a movie once,
And she was like,
"That's
"You're not
all I'm
touching."
going to say. That's all I'm going to say."
And like, she was very like, "You're not going to touch me." Cause I was there like a scary makeup. And Ida Mendes said the same thing. Like, "Oh," cause they knew that I did scary makeup. And they're like, "We're not sitting in your chair." They were
Ida
joking.
Mendes, is she from, like, who's that?
Yeah. The Wicked girl.
Oh.
Dina Menzel.
Oh, maybe that's it. Yeah. See, I don't know anyone's names, but yeah. So her, and she said like, "Oh, I'm not sitting in your chair either." Like, but the Tova
Felcher.
she was like very like, no, like she
Oh,
was.
Yeah, I had to work with her.
Was
on
she in
a
Lust in the
low-budget
Dust?
independent film. She's a big Broadway star. She's a big
And
theater
she's
actor.
like a Law and Order.
Oh.
She was probably
Yeah.
a judge.
She was actually on
every
The Walking
episode.
Dead. She was the mayor of the
Oh, yeah.
town.
Yeah, of the one of those.
Yeah. When
one of
they
those-
first came to that big town, she was the mayor. And then I think she got killed like right at the end of the season.
Yeah, she
Matt,
like,
have you ever had a celebrity spit on you or refuse to take a picture?
There's one story I won't tell because it was like when I was working. There was another story that I actually feel bad about. And I'll share this one because it wasn't about work. Although it was a rap party and like we were all drunk and we're downtown New York and like we're going outside to have a smoke and there's a restaurant next door and the window's open and there's Tom Noonan sitting in the window. And me and the cameraman from this movie that were at the rap party, we're like, "Holy shit, it's Tom Noonan." And like, we're both hammered. And we just go over to the window. We just, "Yo, Tom Noonan, what's up?" Like, he's trying to have a meal. And he's like, "Oh," and he was really nice. He's like, "Oh, hey guys, how's it going?" And all I wanted to do was ask him about Easy Money, the movie he made with Rodney Dangerfield. And apparently he had a terrible experience and you could tell he didn't want to talk about, but I was hammered and I just kept asking him about Easy Money. And like, even though he was still very nice, you could tell he was annoyed. And I just want to say, Tom Noonan, I am sorry.
He was also great in Heat.
Yeah.
All right, so that's our lame celebrity stories. I think I beat all you guys with my Tito Santana story.
well,
I don't know, I'll
I
have to
could
start
tell.
a poll.
I could do a whole show on this, but
Yeah, there are
You have a
stories
format.
I just won't tell.
I had Lou Ferrigno was a jerk. I could.
At
you
the
know.
bar, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah,
Well,
Lou
yeah, I
Ferrigno
had
at the
David.
bar.
Well, you cut me off.
Yeah.
How'd I cut you off? You started in talking about,
all right.
I don't know who, Tofa?
Well, that was one of my. I was trying to give work stories, and I was going to give convention stories. But
Yeah, I got a couple of convention stories.
David Carradine was a jerk to me, and I gave it back to him. And then I said, "You want to step outside? I know kung fu."
Wasn't
And
he
then
drunk?
like,
He was drunk off.
Yeah,
I saw Brian James pull Charles Napier out of the bar because he took a swing at the bartender.
Who's
the
Brian
bartender.
James?
Brian James. He was the guy in Blade Runner.
He's
He was
the other cop in 48 Hours that turns out to be one of the bad guys in another 48 Hours.
Oh.
He was in Blade Runner. Yeah,
Yeah,
Blade Runner.
yeah. Like if
The
you looked at his
leopard guy.
face, you'd know who he was immediately. And Charles Napier, I don't know if you know who Charles Napier was.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was
yeah.
Also
Blues Brothers, man.
Yeah.
Blues Brothers, and also he's the one of the security guys that gets killed in Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Anyway, he got drunk and belligerent, and bartender cut him off, and he's got like really, really mad, and he took a swing, and luckily Brian James was there to pull him away and take him back to his hotel room.
Charles Napier sounds like a guy
I was a
that
jerk to Peter Berg. He's a director now, and he was at the time I was at a Ben Harper show, and he was walking around, and I remember he was on a Chicago Hope, but ER was bigger at the time, and I said, "Hey, you're on that other ER show," and he went, "Very funny." He got all like, he might like that's oh, and then I told him I loved him in Shocker, and then he's
We
like,
got some responses here. Eve Anderson says, "Never meet your heroes." And
Yeah,
Frank,
exactly.
And Frank Pellegrino says, "What? You're Westchester based? Question mark.
One of us, me and Brian are from there, Mr. Pellegrino. Somers, New York, originally. Brian's not going to add anything to that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I live there now. I mean, you just said,
There you go.
One of us is there.
Frank Pellegrino is the fiance of Chrissy Mayer. Okay. I think I just mispronounced her last name. But yeah, here's the thing. So you guys don't know. I was going to say Charles Napier.
Yes.
Would probably have a good time hanging out with Chad Zumock, is what I'm going to say. Stand-up comic,
good day.
Chad Zumock.
Good transition.
So, so you guys, you're not Misery Loves Company fans. I discovered Misery Loves Company, Kevin Brennan's podcast, during the pandemic here. And Chad was a guy on the podcast with him. He'd wear a captain's hat, and he was great with Brennan. Brennan is like this force of nature, angry at everybody. That's his whole thing. And like just a funny dude if you watch his stuff on YouTube. Now, Brennan has a falling out, I suppose, with anybody who's ever co-hosted his podcast with him. It always ends badly, and so he had a falling out with Chad, and it created like this old school Stern level of feud, which just got me totally hooked on Misery Loves Company. And I've sort of tracked Chad since then. He just had a stand-up special come out on Dry Bar Comedy, something I think that's called Dry Bar Comedy.
Is that a YouTube channel?
It's interesting. What?
Is that a YouTube channel?
No, it's a website. It's based, I think, in Utah. I don't know if it's run by Mormons, but they produce these, they finance these comedy specials, and there's like dozens of them on their website. But from what I understand is like you can't curse. It's got to all be kind of family friendly. So I'm fascinated by the fact this guy, Chad, who you guys don't know, but we'll play some clips, he is real aggressive. He's been arrested a bunch of times. He got
Didn't he have
arrested.
a big case?
Credit card theft.
Yeah, he had fraudulent use of a credit card.
And wasn't it over Zoom or something? Because I watched some of that stuff.
Spears is all over the place. Yeah, once he got arrested, and then he had, because of the pandemic, all the court cases were on Zoom. Yeah. And there's a famous one, although nobody ever taped it. It was just where the guy Ski Mask, right? Chad has a feud with everybody. That's why you start talking about Chad. He had a feud with Kevin Brennan. He has an ongoing feud with the Ski Mask Collective. And Ski Mask attended one of his Zoom court dates. So I don't know if I think he might have been wearing the ski mask. This is a guy, a podcaster, who did a basically Misery Loves Company wrap-up show. He's still doing it. He just started something called Sad Chad, where once a week he just goes after and roasts Chad. They're like bitter enemies at this point. Matt, did you have a question?
Well, I was going to say I don't know much about Chad Zumock, but one of the only things I did notice that I kind of admire the guy. I haven't seen his comedy. I don't know anything about his comedy, but all these clips, he's always trying to out comedy he's making a comedy challenge to some comics. Like, I'll show up. I'll be the funniest guy in the room. Guaranteed. I'll be the funniest guy there.
Yeah. But I do respect the fact, we got roasted on Who Are These Podcasts once, lightly, right? Because we had,
Chairman Meow says he's a rabid dog.
Who says that?
Chairman Meow says he's a rabid dog.
So, Brian, you remember we discovered, because we had said we thought they sounded too much like regular radio, and stop making fun of Stuttering John. His podcast is sort of entertaining because it's a train wreck sort of, but so they made fun of us, and I remember being terrified because we did a response saying oh yeah, these guys, they totally called us on our shit and were funny about it, But I just remember being so nervous because then I'm looking. I only just kind of discovered Who Are These Podcasts at that point. I didn't realize they had a Reddit thing. I knew nothing about Dabblers Anonymous on Reddit. I was just sort of dipping my toes in it. This guy Chad just takes on everybody. Oh, Anthony Cumia and the O&A pass. Yeah, I'll pick a war with all them and go at it nonstop. Kevin Brennan. Now Carl from Who Are These Podcasts, who have it's anybody who has a massive, rabid fan base, this guy seems to pick a fight with, which I think is kind of entertaining.
Stephen Lewis says you better watch out or Chad might Jamie Lee Curtis you all real hard. And Why Do I Podcast says, oh, Chad.
All right, so we've got, yeah, now I'm nervous. These people are actually watching. But all right, so the clip that went around the world this week, because it takes literally an hour to introduce just who Chad is he had this podcast like last Sunday. He does a Patreon podcast, and I pay for it. I actually tried to pay more, but the way it was set up, I couldn't. But he responded to Carl from Who Are These Podcasts, because Carl roasted him in an episode. So with all that being said, let me see if I can share the screen. And I'm sharing our own podcast, which is lame, but whatever. It's new to you guys. I like how it's new to Brian, and he's the co-host of the podcast.
What's new to me?
And by the way,
I listened to this the other day at work.
Okay, here we go.
The difference between me and you, I was popular in high school. Okay? I played sports. I was class clown, class cutest. I had that superlative. I've always been around the cool kids. That crew is not cool. I know it's your time to shine, and you think you're part of the cool kids now. Chrissy Mayer, Alex Stein, and a fucking 63-year-old drunk Anthony Cumia, who may or may not have choked Vinnie Brand's daughter.
Okay, now I'll just say for the record here, there was more of that. I actually spliced two things together. He went on a slight tangent about how Cumia's court case, how Cumia says it was basically eventually disposed and it was nothing, which every court case does, right? It's a plea bargain eventually. And he was claiming that his court case, same thing happened. It had like 20 plus cases of fraudulent use of a credit card against him, and it all got whittled down to one thing. It's not, I don't know, it's not entirely accurate, because you can look at the public record, and it seems to me that he is on probation right now. He has to stay out of trouble for a certain amount of time, or they could get him with the charges again. So anyway, but I cut that off because it was sort of a tangent like I'm going on right now.
Your crew's not cool.
And at this point, he's kind of talking to both Anthony and Carl up in Rochester.
That's not a cool crew. You guys aren't the cool kids. And not one of you will approach me. Not one of you, because you're all fucking keyboard warriors and dorks. Carl, I know you guys live in the little bubble, but you go around my crew, which is cool. Like going to New York, hanging out with Godfrey and Artie Fuqua, getting girls, and that's cool. That's cool. This Friday, Boca, hanging out with Jim Brewer. That's fun.
Jim Brewer sucks.
That's a good time, sold out show. That's a cool crew. A couple months ago, hanging out with Brewer and Florentine in Naples. That was fun. That's a good crew. Rochester, your boys, that's not a cool crew.
So anyway, I just thought this was such a bizarre way for a comedian to go after a guy. I don't know.
Not only is it a bizarre way for a comedian to go after a guy, it's a bizarre way for a 47-year-old man to go after a guy, to talk about back in high school, back in the day, 30 years ago.
He's talking about like 1993, 1994.
Yeah.
Don't most people, you bring up the music from that era.
You graduated in 93 when I did. That was a long ass time ago.
So I don't know. I find him endlessly fascinating. But what I really don't like about the guy, though, and again, who am I to say anything about Chad Zumock? I'm a fat man in my basement doing a podcast, right? I totally get I'm a nobody. I do respect the guy. He's a stand-up comedian, right? He's a working comedian. He travels around Tampa, Florida, playing gigs all the time. So God bless him. And I guess like people will say they're comparing him a lot to Stuttering John right now. That's sort of the thing. He's getting tagged as like the next Stuttering John. And I think like you got to admit, Stuttering John is not a stand-up comic. You got to give Chad a point. He was on Kevin Brennan. He was good with Kevin Brennan. He is like incredibly self-destructive.
I don't know enough about his stand-up comedy to judge one way or the other. He's
famous for bombing at the Kevin Brennan roast. There was a Kevin Brennan roast, obviously, and it's on YouTube on Misery Loves Company, the YouTube page. And he was really nervous. His latest special, and maybe we'll skip around here, or his new special, which is on Dry Bar. Let me see if I can find the clip, because again, it's a company. The thing that the people that finance this thing, you can't be edgy, right? This guy, he's got arrest records. His whole thing is like, he had a DWI, but he was cleared. He fights with everybody. It's a guy who takes on everybody. And he did the most vanilla stand-up you could imagine. You can watch it with your family. And I just don't get what's like the business plan there. What's the end game why would you go on? So, like, how's that going to help you? That's not your audience. The people that are obviously, because I'm saying this as a fan, the people that watch that type of comedy are not seeking out Chad Zumock. There's just no way. Matt is currently strangling his dog to death. Don't do that. You don't have to do that on camera.
No, I'm not. She just wants attention.
Here's the thing. There's the Ski Mask Collective, right? There's Ski Mask. And the guy Stevie, who was just in here a second ago, they said this all, like I said this like last week on a random podcast. They said it before me and better. And although for whatever reason,
maybe he wants to be Brian Regan. Maybe
Brian Regan.
Brian Regan is like the number one selling, like he's like sells
like a Jim
out everywhere.
Gaffigan.
Yeah, he's like a Jim Gaffigan.
Right,
Canadian, right?
The guy who does the stupid faces, right?
Yeah, but he's like, not famous for being clean.
Right. Yeah. So, but who are these podcasts? And Steel Toe mentioned this podcast, but really the godfathers of all this, the experts at this are Ski Mask. They know Chad, and I guess they have this ongoing feud, which is going to be discussed more and more over the next couple of weeks. So let me see if I can find and locate Sad Chad. Okay. So this is going to be Ski Mask host Jim Stansel and Stevie Lew, Stephen Lewis, talking about this very fact. And I think it's Stevie Lew specifically who is like, why is this dude, this outlaw comedian, stuttering John quotes, doing a special like this? You guys should fart or something as I find it.
What about this dry bar special that he's so fucking proud about? That
I'm not buying that. No.
He's going to blow up. He's going to
First of all, I would not look at these three guys. I would not fuck with these guys.
blow up big time. Because, like, okay, he says people. I got an email. Somehow, I'm also on this motherfucker's mailing list. I got
the email too.
I got an email saying, "Hey guys, listen, if you could spread the word about this special, there's a chance I could blow up because people blow up off of this."
I got it too.
Now, dry
He
bar.
said, "Yeah, I didn't even open the email, but that's what the email said."
Name one person. First of all,
I'll open it.
Name one person that's blown up because of dry bar. First of all, what is dry bar? That's a
dry bar. It's a dry comedy.
No cursing.
No one likes that.
No cursing. Safe comedy. Blue comedy. Like
that's brutal.
I got the email right here. You want to go through it?
Yes, please. Let's break down the email, and if they include a phone number to the dry bar people, let's give them a call.
That's the thing too. Like he's promoting this fucking non-aggressive comedy, and then he's fucking tagging the abused women hotline, trying to make that sort of joke. It's like you can't be both, Chad. You can't be fucking you can't be Gaffigan on one side and then try to be Richard Pryor on the other, man. You got to choose your lane. Are you really that confused this late in your career that you're not sure yet if you're going to be a alcoholic or not, Chad? I've been in the fucking game for 6 years now, and I can tell you, okay, I'm gonna stick to dirty comedy, and I'm not gonna fucking try to get big on dry bar and then claim to be a punk rock comedian and try to be a badass, and then you sit there and fucking delete tweets and you take pot shots that aren't even funny at people who are funny.
Boom, right? I thought that was really well reasoned, without like personally insulting the guy or anything like that. But yeah, like that guy, Stevie Lew, crystallized my thoughts much more eloquently than I am able. So the other weird thing about Chad, go ahead, Matt.
I was going to ask, those clips that they played on Who Are These Podcasts the other day of Chad Zumock's stand-up special, is that the one from Dry Bar?
Yes, I believe it was, right? Yeah, in the Dry Bar special.
All right, that makes sense.
Yeah, the people of Walmart. And that's the other thing about Chad. I watched his special. I watched the whole thing. And, this is a guy, again, he's got a criminal record of some kind, right? I'm not saying, whatever, things happen. People get into trouble. But even in the special, like the people of Walmart stuff, he puts himself above like the people of Walmart. Like the comedy is kind of looking down his nose at them. And it's like, why he's so, there's like a weird egotistical thing as demonstrated by that high school stuff. And it's counterproductive to him trying to get laughs, at least as somebody who just sat there watching his special. The other and again, whatever, he is what he is, but he is obsessed with Chrissy Mayer. I
noticed that.
It's weird. I noticed that. Like, I mean, I don't know a ton about Chrissy Mayer.
I know she's kind of popular. That much I know.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Like, she's unavoidable if you're on YouTube or Twitter and you follow any type of comedy. She comes up. Right. I was like a couple of weeks ago, played like Friday the 13th, the game until like 3 a.m, was on YouTube. And she had a live stream going, just click on Who's Live. she had a live stream going like from her hotel room, she just got back from a gig. Like I was like, oh, like she really tries to connect with her fans. And I was like, Jesus Christ, the person's everywhere. You got to respect the work ethic at least.
Yeah, got to respect the hustle.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if I necessarily agree with her politics, but Chad, I know it started on the Kevin Brennan podcast. Kevin would badmouth her a little bit. And then Chad says he just picked up on that. But it's been like, if you listen to his podcast, it's like every single episode, extended attacks of the woman. Yeah. And to the point where he's that guy, I assume it was the guy, Frank Pellegrino, that you mentioned, attacking that guy, like bringing that guy. And I don't know, I know whatever the random internet beefs are between all these people, there's all these different factions I know nothing about. But the Chad stuff, it seems creepy.
Yeah. And all I know is Chad Zumock says he can out-comedy them all.
But he's also got a criminal record. Like, I'm scared of the guy. Like, you know what I mean? I'm watching what I say here. There's an unpredictability there. And plus his calls to Anthony Cumia that happened this week. It's a little intense. And
yet Gino Bisconte still has a job.
I don't even want to talk about that.
Sorry.
Guy. But here is, all right, who do I got here? Trying to find one thing here. Oh, it's Chad talking about, maybe this is it. He talks about like his idea of masculinity here, like what Chad thinks a man should do if someone's harassing your fiance or girlfriend. And it's just straight up kind of creepy. Maybe this is it. I might have fucked this up.
Just walk in with that.
I was thinking about doing a disguise. I don't know if I'm going to go full on ground.
All right, so there's a show coming up where Chrissy's going to be, and I believe her husband might have been the one organizing this whole show that's coming up in Florida. And they don't want him there, obviously, because the guy's been sort of semi-stalking her for 2 years now.
Gotcha, but
or what could be behavior that could be perceived by some as stalking.
Actually get prosthetics and just go in because they might have my photo all around. But here's the thing. Like, if I'm not causing a scene, if I'm not doing anything, you can't throw me out, can you?
Yes.
No. No.
I like how that guy got, it's a private business. Of course you can.
They have the right. Maybe. They reserve the right to throw anybody out they want.
The owner.
Well, I know the GM, Krista.
You do know? Okay.
I worked there.
Did you talk to, is it he, her?
I have not talked to her. But this is the only reason why I might not go is because I don't want to put her in a position like that. Like, I didn't want to put Side Splitters in a bad position. Like,
that's why you just call her.
Yeah. I was like, I just want to watch the show.
The mention there of Side Splitters, he's got a beef with Bert Kreischer as well. I'm kind of on Chad's side with that. Bert Kreischer sucks. But I guess Bert Kreischer had a birthday party at one of these Florida comedy clubs, and Chad was asked to leave. And he did a podcast where he got really emotional about it. Chad did.
Thinking about, I want to watch the show. Thinking about coming. Would I be kicked out because they all hate me?
Yeah. And it's just, they're scared. They're all bitches, all of them. Because if they were cool, they'd be like, yeah, come watch the show. If I was confident enough in my stand-up comedy and the attendance in the show, I'd be like, by all means, we'll put you on the comp list. By all means, come watch. I would show the fuck off instead of run scared like they're doing. They're just scared. They're just because they stink at stand-up. It's not going to be a fun show. The show stinks. Period.
Yeah, and I will say, like, this isn't actually the clip I wanted to play. There's a clip where maybe it's later in this, and I just fucked it up. Oh, hold on. Let me just explain. I just wanted to say, like, what he starts to go into here, my point was, he starts to go after Frank about how if Frank was a real man, he would confront me at this club, like, just real, like, high school level. You know, I'm going to get into a fist fight. It's like, dude, a real man doesn't, like, attack a woman. I mean, is that, like, misogynist to say or sexist? Like, you don't attack a woman every day for 2 years.
That shouldn't need an asterisk
on a podcast, for God's sakes. All right, go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, Carl from whoever these podcasts brought up a good point about all this when he brought up the fact that Chad wants to show up. Like, if you're one of the cool kids, why do you want to be where you don't think there are any cool kids at all? Why do you want to force your way into that party?
Right, and he's doing stuff like, I mean, I kind of get it because he's bitter and he's just kind of striking out at people, but he's calling like Cumia a racist. Well, yeah, you didn't know that before you went on the guy's show? I mean, come on, dude. Like, it was all okay until it wasn't okay. All right, so here is Chrissy Mayer reacting to some of Chad's stuff. This was on that Steel Toe morning show. It's an hour interview. I recommend people go watch it. It's pretty good. And the steel toe guy, like some person on Dabblers Anonymous described him as like, he's a very aggressive young man, an old school radio type, where it's like he's obnoxious. And he is to a certain extent. He is definitely an old school broadcaster. But he did a really good interview with Chrissy Mayer that I'll share right now.
Kind of like regressing to like a childlike state. It's like,
this is her reacting to his high school comment.
Like, when was the last time I was crushing it? Oh, high school. Yeah, let's talk about that.
He feels good there. Mm-hmm.
But also,
we're like psychologists.
I know.
Here. We're like,
yes,
I feel like I should have like a clipboard and a white coat.
Right, but that's why I always enjoy these people.
Oh, by the way, that's the woman with the red hair. That's Chrissy.
I was telling April this on the morning show because Chad was lashing out again this morning. The chat starts going, Chad's lashing out. You have to see this. So we went and watched it, and April goes, don't you ever feel bad? And I said, no, I don't see him as a person. He's just this thing.
That's like a woman thing. Like I say that every day. I'm like, I feel bad for him. And then I'll listen to something where he's like talking so much shit about me and Frank. And then I'll be like, all right, he's still at it.
See what you get for treating him as a human, though? It's like treating a viper like a human. Just the minute you turn around, it's going to bite you. So don't treat it like a person. Like I said this morning, he's a shovel hanging up in my garage. I don't yell at my shovel. I don't get mad at my shovel. If my shovel does something stupid and funny, I laugh at my shovel. That's all Chad is.
It truly must be a woman thing, like Chrissy understands here. Like anytime I'll say I feel bad for any of our lol cows, even a little bit, just because I take pity on them, the whole chat is just full of men. Just don't.
Well, I think the thing is, I mean, let's be honest, right?
What Chrissy said isn't wrong.
Oh. People hate hot chicks, right? I mean, like, there's a mentality where, somebody's successful and they're young, female, and pretty. It's like, well, it's because their looks. You know what I mean? Like that's what it comes down to. But to go on for 2 years like that is sort of insane. But Chad has his defenders. Like I said, he was on the Kevin Brennan podcast, Misery Loves Company, and they had a kind of a good chemistry there. Spears, do you want to say anything about this, or you're just like, man, I can't believe this dude?
I mean, the only thing I know is from the Misery Loves Company, and I always thought he was more of the butt of the jokes of the episodes I saw.
Yeah, what do you mean? Because I haven't listened in a while, and I'm kind of like, there's so much content I've consumed. As somebody so you're kind of new to this part. What was your impression of the Chad, the Z-Man then?
Well, I mean, I thought he was kind of hacky, and they were all making fun of him for being kind of hacky. I mean, he wore the stupid captain's hat, and he was always
I like the captain's hat.
I like, to me, he thought like, I don't know. I guess I like an edgier comic, but like not a comic that dresses up. He always looked like he was dressed up with a Hawaiian shirt.
He's wearing his own T-shirt in that Dry Bar special.
That like just douchey stuff. I always thought he was the butt of the jokes. They had him on like to be the goof of like when something got slower, if he'd say something, they'd just be like, shut up. Like they were always picking on him. So maybe there is some of that mentality like that comes off. And I mean, I just think, like no one likes the guy and he just wants to be liked, but, he's being a jerk about it rather than shut his mouth. He goes on to all these things. And I only see him from clips like now I'm all like, I don't know, because I follow us, I get all these weird shows now. So I'm getting all these in my feeds now. So I'll listen, but a lot of it is like somebody else reacting to something that he does. So I don't ever get anything more than the clips. Like, well, I mean, listen, guys, I've been working 17 hours a day the last 3 weeks.
It's hard to know whether what's up or down.
So I'm not listening to the hour-long show. I will listen to the 10-minute clipper they put up. And it's usually like
people should. I mean, I kind of like Chad's podcast. I mean, he just shit talks. And I mean, I don't know.
But here's the thing: the people that hate him, I like more. You know what I mean? Or I listen.
He's a great villain. He's a great heel,
and maybe that's like he's a good foil. Like, so I get it. Like, I find him annoying, but that's But I'm not in as deep as you are.
Right. So this now is Levy, the Reverend Bob Levy, actually starts talking about Chad here, and it's great. It's like Levy. I mean, of course we've known Levy.
Levy kind of defended him.
Well, yeah, and he kind of in this was a past episode from I think earlier this month of Misery Loves Company, where Brennan brings him up, and Levy talks about how he was trying to counsel Chad essentially. Although since I screwed up that last, I could be completely wrong, and this could be just I don't know, Bob Levy eating cream cheese out of someone's butt. Yeah, blue cheese. I saw him do that once. He doesn't do that anymore. All right, here we go.
If he would just fucking calm the.
Can you guys hear that?
Yep.
All right, good. So yeah, this is Brennan telling if Chad would just take it easy and not feel the need to respond to everybody, his life would be easier.
Fuck down. Like he's not even. Kumia's not even like he's not even taking this personally.
No.
Where Chad is, because Chad's like insecure.
And if you don't know, if there's any like listeners audio only who listen to us for our takes on Marvel, Chad's at war with Anthony Cumia.
Security has thin skin, just like Bill Schultz. And Chad, we all know Chad's backstory. We don't know Bill Schultz as well, but Chad's backstory is pretty bad. Like he had a fucking stepdad who used to fucking, his dad bailed. And then his stepdad used to fucking beat him whenever he would do a bad impression. And
what? No.
I don't know.
I love Kevin Brennan.
I don't know what you'd have to do. Chad said his stepdad would like beat him at breakfast. I'm like, what do you do by that early in the day? Your stepdad's already fucking beating you. So, but anyway, so Chad's like damaged goods, but it's like, but I'm saying like these guys who like these Peter Pan, I hate to call it Peter Pan because it sounds so gay, but it's just like the Peter Pan guys who have like who are just like grown-ups, but they're not men, like Gino's not a man. He's just like, he's
all
just
goes
a
back to
fucking
Gino.
drunk boy, but he'll say he's a man because he's Italian. Happy Columbus Day, by the way. And also, but then you get all these guys, Bill Schultz, Chad, they're all like, no kids, no wife, no nothing. And they sit around with their Twitter. They get mad and they start tweeting out. It's like, you're not going to win against Cumia on Twitter. Cause first of all, Cumia is fun even on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's got more fans and and Chad knows he can't win, but he's like, I don't give a fuck. Then why are you doing it?
I basically said to him, look, this is what you say. If you want to make up, just hit him up and say, look, man, I'm sorry. I fucked up. I shouldn't have got mad. I get mad. I was stupid. Fucking, let's just end this. I want to end this and just fucking, go on from there. And that's kind of this. And Anthony's the kind of guy that would be like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Also, Bob, as well as anybody that like, if Chad came up to New York and went on Cumia, it would be like a really funny show.
Oh, yeah.
So Cumia is aware of that too. Cumia is like, yeah, you can be a dick, but like, you could still do my show because he knows it would be funny,
Yeah.
It would be like if Bill Schultz did my show. It would be awkward, but it'd be entertaining,
Yeah. I go, who are you hurting but yourself? Who are you hurting but yourself? Explain to me who you know what I mean? You're hurting yourself. You're not hurting Anthony. You're never going to hurt. You're just hurting yourself. I go, I've done stupid shit. I know. Get over it. Move on. Realize that, okay, this was stupid. This is hurting me.
I mean, if you're getting life advice from Levy, that says something. But anyway, I thought that last clip was awesome with Levy bringing it around like that. I love how Levy has become.
Levy's become this elder statesman.
He's like had this
He's had this resurgence, right? Because I think he's more popular now, and I'd swear he's funnier now than he was on the Stern Show back in the day.
And I know he's sober now, and that probably has a lot to do with it.
Right?
Good for Levy, man. Good for Levy.
Yeah, it is totally awesome, and to see him and Brennan together, I think it's great. I love that there's like old man comedy, right? Because I'm 48, and we need that. So that was really it. The only other thing that I had was I saw this, I don't know, a week or two ago, and I don't even know if I actually pulled it. But oh no, I did. What the hell was that? Did somebody just die?
That's my dog snoring, actually.
So Erock, right? Now I came across this. This is how dumb I am, because I'm sort of like dipping my toe in this world. I thought Erock, I'm like, oh yeah, it's the former O&A guy. He was the O&A producer forever. I didn't even know. He's at Compound Media. I had no idea. I guess he's got his own show. I had no idea. I apologize.
He was with the Jim and Sam show for a while, and then he quit. And I guess now he quit because he moved over to Cumia. But he started with Cumia on the O&A show.
So he did a live stream on October 12th called. Actually, it might have been called something else. But if you go to It's Eric Nagel, it was endlessly fascinating. It was like a 2-hour live stream where he went through some O&A stuff from their like NEW days. He mentioned, I don't know, Matt, did you listen to O&A back in the day when they were in New York? Okay. Do you remember
from
Spaz?
like the very beginning? I was about to say, like, the reason I was an O&A fan, like, and I was hooked immediately. They must have been on the air for about a month at that point, and they had this intern named Spaz, and they would always get him. And this was like the height of the shock jock era. They would always get him to do this dumb stuff. And I think he was engaged at the time, and they had either it was a porn star or like some hooker they just pulled off the street, and they made a bet with him, like, all right, she's gonna orally pleasure you in the bathroom, and you have 10 minutes to finish, or you're gonna, we got to bet that you can't do it in under 10 minutes. And like, he went into the bathroom with the strong, and they put a mic to the door, and like, you heard everything.
102.7 drive time.
Yeah. And I had never heard anything like this before.
That piece of
like,
shit.
It's as good as anything Stern ever did. It was amazing. And like, from that moment on, I was hooked on O&A.
He went to college with me. We were in the same journalism classes. Kevin Martin, wacko piece of shit, would grab girls' boobs. Was just like the creep of creeps. And you know what happened to him? He became a New York City police officer.
Did he?
And he's been indicted for like evidence tampering. He's got a whole brutality. I can't, like, it just blows my mind that this guy passed the psych test to become NYPD. That guy was like, just like that was no act. He was a creep, like, not like in a Chad kind of funny, endearing sort of way, just like even further.
And it was
criminal.
like a
but
big
anyway,
fallout with the fiance after that. Like,
there's all
like,
kind
her
of weirdness,
family was
but
calling in immediately. Like, her brother called in like while this was going on.
may he rot in hell. All right. So anyway, Erock did a whole show. He touched upon that a little bit, but the purpose of the show is to talk about, I guess, because I'm out of the New York area, but Brian and I guess maybe Matt, 92.3 is no longer a rock station in New York. I guess it just recently flipped, and it's just 10-10 wins.
No idea. I haven't listened.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to radio in years.
Jim and Sam talked about it the other day. That's the only reason I know about it. But
It's like our childhood, just ripped out of our hearts.
But 92.3 has been dead for a long time. Like,
Yeah,
it
it was
ended
dead.
with Stern.
Yeah.
And then they changed formats. They went to an all talk format for they tried to do that.
Seek out this guy's podcast that he did on October 12th, because he talks about all, like, what it was like to be there when all that was going on. But he also had this, he went on, I love this guy because he went on like this really passionate speech about, I know what it's like to be in a dying industry. I'll just say that myself, And so he's in regular radio. He's talking about what they can do to save it. And I just at the end of it, I was ready to run guns for Erock. So that's that. Let me just share the page. I'll do a stuttering John.
Everybody leaves for podcasting. If you want personality programming, why everybody's on Spotify or Apple Music. Nobody's on Pandora. You can say what you want about Pandora. Sirius wasted a ton of money buying that thing, because if you
I'm a Pandora guy, and I had a pink Zune before I got any type of I guess I'm always on the wrong side.
look at the statistics and everything, Pandora is nowhere near where Spotify and Apple Music are right now. Spotify's making big strides with big programming. They bought Joe Rogan. They bought what's her name for Call Her Daddy. It was on Barstool. Now it's on Spotify. She's doing gangbusters for them. People are just spending money on expensive celebrity programming, millions of dollars. And in some aspects, it works and it makes sense. In a lot of aspects, just because you're a celebrity and you have some audience that'll come to it, doesn't make it a good show. And that's all they care about. They don't want to do the work. They don't want to own properties anymore. They want to buy into what was already successful so they can put ads on your programming, and then they make money off the ads on your programming while paying you. It's like, we'll pay you like $3 million a year to have your show if you let us do the ads and the distribution. Okay, great. So if they're spending $3 million on you, they're making at least 10 or more based on the ads. So that's where it's all going right now. All the good programs are doing it themselves. They're doing it through Patreon. They're doing it through other things that are not radio, unfortunately. They're doing it through like Spotify.
Oh, by the way, thanks to Why Do I Podcast, gave this podcast $10. I did that buy me a coffee thing and begged for a couple of bucks on YouTube. And one guy gave $10. Thank you.
Has been pretty good with their podcast stuff. iHeart
is mostly celebrity stuff now, and you don't really hear local things. I'm not local things, but radio people's podcast really getting pushed, or comedians' podcast being pushed, unless they're super famous. But this is never. There's been a time now where, or we're in a time now, I should say, where radio could really. It's bleeding. People have been saying radio's been dead for years, and you might think programming wise, but look, the stats, the sales, the numbers, all that's the statistics, the analytics. Radio was doing really good, especially during the pandemic. Radio had a bit of a resurgence, but they're not investing in talent. They're not investing in personalities, their own. It used to be a network wanted to develop everything in-house so that they had ownership and control over it. It had to be owned by NBC. It had to be owned by CBS. It had to be owned by ABC. Infinity Broadcasting, Clear Channel. It all has to be owned and in-house. They don't do that anymore. They'll spend $150 million on Conan O'Brien, which is great. I love Conan, and I love Conan's podcast. But then they don't give a shit about the rest of the channels that they have on Sirius, and a lot of their programming goes by the wayside. They just don't care because you're not the big deal. You're not the big celebrity that they want to pay attention to. A lot of this industry is star fucking. It is.
So I'll stop it right there. I thought what he was. I just love how he's also like, he looks exhausted.
He always looked like that, though.
Does he?
Even when he was on Jim and Sam, which wasn't that long ago, he looked exhausted.
I feel like I identify with this guy.
Which is part of the reason I assumed he left, because I'm like, wow, that guy's exhausted.
It just looks like he's beaten down. I totally get it. Spears, so we should check in. Just one last thing. Are you still listening to Stern? Has Stern done anything like remotely watchable in the last couple of weeks at all?
I mean, listen, I'm going to be the guy that gets all the bad comments. I mean, there's something every day that I laugh at, but I mean, it's not the same show, but I'm still going to listen. And there's still moments that I laugh at, as long as I don't care if he hits certain members of the staff, I'll listen, and I'll go back and listen to make sure I listen to that part. I don't really care about the interviews once in a blue moon. I mean, listen, they did a 40-minute talk on the Terrifier 2 this week.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Was that like subtle product placement, like advertising?
I mean, it was
Richard
amazed talking about it, and Richard.
Say again. You talked over me. What'd you say?
Well, it was Richard talking about the movie that he saw and told Howard he has to see it, and Howard goofed on the movie, because of how graphic. But Richard was talking about it, and it was more about his exuberance of Halloween time and how he saw this movie. He did admit he was an investor, for $25 on when they did a fundraising thing. And,
to make the movie, to make the sequel, Terrifier 2.
To make the movie originally. So then they were saying that, he should be able to now collect that money. So they were goofing on it and laughing on it and giving a scenario. And they went and talked about horror movies, and it had nothing to do with the horror. I mean, once in a blue moon, they'll talk music or movies. I find that stuff fascinating.
When Howard becomes
Howard doesn't
human.
have to fight anyone anymore, so he's not as funny. And I don't like bits. I never liked his bits. I never liked when he did sexy stuff with women, which has now been replaced with more, it's more man on man stuff, because that seems to be funnier and safer in this world.
Yeah, that's
crazy. To each his own. It doesn't bother me, but I never liked any of the Stern sex stuff.
You get annoyed by all the vacation time.
What was that?
You get annoyed by all the vacation.
I mean, listen, guys. The guy deserves the vacation. He's been doing it that long. Then don't
just got off of a 2-week thing.
Say. I mean, listen, the guy's he deserves his vacation. I'll say that. I don't like it.
He still wants to do it.
No, but here's the thing. I also will go to YouTube and listen to Jackie Days all the time. I'll listen to them putting out the Jetty every day. I'll listen to Stuttering John. Get Gorillo and Ganji out of his apartment. I'll go back and listen to that stuff. I still listen. Listen, he's got Bruce Springsteen. I'm interested in hearing Bruce Springsteen talk.
Listen, 11 o'clock tonight, I'm going to turn on a Roku channel called The B Zone, and he's going to be playing an episode of the Channel 9 show. I do that every Saturday night.
I have that, but I always miss it. So it's the B Zone on Roku at what time?
Yes, at 11 o'clock, just like you used to do on the Channel 11.
Every Saturday?
Every Saturday.
All right, I got to check that out. I mean, the thing about Bruce Springsteen though, he's not even Bruce Springsteen anymore.
I know,
he's,
but I
he's
just wanna
turned. He
hear
does
it.
the Bob Dylan voice now, and all that.
But, hey,
just
listen,
a great
we
way.
talked about earlier. We shouldn't meet our heroes. So, like, you know, I mean, I get it. They're all like, it's fading, but I'm just a creature of habit. And for me, it's all about, you know, it's my drive in and, you know, passes my time.
The Spears got beat up because a couple of, you know, he said he's still a Stern fan. And like one person said something, Brian's like,
well, I mean, because I think, you know, screw you. You know, I can listen.
The one great thing, one of many great things about the whole Dabbler stuff that's been going on now is that there has been a complete resurgence on YouTube of all the old Stuttering John, all that era, not just John, because everyone's trying to whatever make him look bad.
And listen, it's great to go back and he was way better back then. But again, you know,
he was.
It's always been radio. All this
speak.
stuff we listen to, you could turn it off and listen to whatever you want. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I guess that's it. I did go back and check the chat. I guess people bailed out.
There's still 13 people watching currently.
Welcome to this episode of Poor Man's WATP, Poor Man's Ski Mask. And I can't stress that enough. Like, if you want like Chad drama, Ski Mask Collective is definitely the way to go. I guess next week, I mean, one thing that I want to do.
Cover Gino Bisconte next week.
Maybe we can do it next. Watch, threw me off there. Watch One Too Many, which is available on Amazon. And we should do a serious review of the movie, like break it down plot wise, and do what we, you know, which is in our wheelhouse, which is what we've been doing badly since 2016.
I need to see it.
So
I bought the movie.
You did?
Well, hey,
DVD?
man, it's on Amazon. I want to be a
Did
part
you get
of
a
the
physical
podcast.
copy of it?
No, I have a.
Okay.
I bought it on Amazon for $9. You know, instead of
gotcha.
renting it.
I was going to say, because I believe it's on eBay for like $6, and I think I read that there's a director's commentary on the DVD with Stuttering John, which must be great. So I was thinking about getting that somehow.
Yeah, I couldn't own it. A physical copy, but I figured I didn't know when we would talk about that movie. I know you addressed it earlier in a chat, so I was like, you know what, I probably wasn't going to watch it this weekend. So it'll be one of those things I'll get up in the morning and watch, you know, a little bit at a time. Because I'm like really excited to watch.
Yeah, it is. Like a couple of weeks ago, Why Do I Podcast and Dabblers Unanimous had an online watch party on YouTube where people were commenting and they were commenting together on it. And it's great. The movie's great. It's everything you would expect a Stuttering John movie to be. So
I'm saving my money for the Light and Dark box set.
Maybe they'll package them together. Google Light and Dark.